rules. He went to the above world.
A man was drowning. I had to save him.
This obsession with humans has to stop.
I just want to know more about them. Ariel! Don't!
This week on Talking About the Movies, it's time to head back under the sea to take a look at Disney's latest live-action reimagining. This is The Little Mermaid. Welcome to Talking About the Movies, and today, of course, we're talking about the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is The Little Mermaid, the live-action adaptation of the classic 1989 Disney movie, which in and of itself is based off the Hans Christian Andersen story. And, needless to say, The Little Mermaid does hold a special place not only in Disney history, but animation history in general, because it is the movie that helped to renaissance, that helped to launch the second renaissance of Disney animation. I mean, it was because of this movie we got great films like The Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, so on and so forth. And it all started with this movie here. And this is the latest live-action adaptation of a Disney classic that really does not need a live-action adaptation of it. I mean, really, every one of these live-action Disney adaptations are completely pointless. I mean, there's no reason to do live-action versions of these stories because you're never going to be able to top what was done with the original Disney animated classics. I mean, they're animated classics for a reason, and I tend to agree with a lot of people. All these movies are absolutely pointless. There's no reason to do these movies. But with that said, though, I've been more supportive of these movies more than I've been against them. Like, last year kind of was my breaking point when I talked about Pinocchio, the Robert Zemeckis one, and that ended up being one of the worst movies I saw in 2022. Surprisingly, is one of two bad Pinocchio movies, I should say, in 2022. But I was kind of done with these movies after that film. And then we got Peter Pan and Wendy, which was just premiered on Disney Plus a couple months ago. Actually, a month ago, I should say. A month ago this week. Today, I should say. And I just thought that was just mediocre. I didn't think it was that good. I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was that good either. It was just kind of run-of-the-mill. And that was directed by the man who made one of the better live-action adaptations with Pete's Dragon. So, with The Little Mermaid, I had my curiosity about how this was going to work. I knew going in right away, there's no way they're going to top the original film. I mean, the original film just works on so many levels. It's a film that really is going to be extremely hard to do what they're able to do with this movie. You're not going to be able to top what they did back then, and I went in with a lot of skepticism. I always thought the one thing that was going to be great about the movie was the person who was Halle Bailey as Ariel. We'll get to that later on. So I went into the year a little bit not really that excited, but I felt a lot of optimism because the reviews that were coming out were actually pretty good. There was a lot of good reception coming out of it, even from people who were very critical of it. Most people said that it was a surprisingly effective film. So when I went in there, I watched the movie, and after I came out of it, I just gotta honestly say it, I felt like Al Pacino in The Godfather Part 3.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
They brought me back in, man. They brought me back in, because really, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie. Now, it has a lot of flaws to it. It is certainly anywhere near the levels that the original Little Mermaid is. That is something that's going to be really hard to top anytime. But for what they gave us, there wasn't a whole lot there that I really did not like. I really enjoyed a good portion of this movie, a good majority of the movie, I should say. But, before we get to the positives, let me talk about the negatives, because there are a lot of negatives to this movie that I should bring up. Start off with the obvious one. The visual effects really are not that great, especially on the fish. Like, I've talked about it in the past, that I really don't like the design of Sebastian. I really don't like his design. The fact that he literally looks like Mr. Krabs whenever he goes up to the surface on SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, it's hard not to think about that, but to his credit, though, he's nowhere near as bad as Flounder. Flounder, I didn't see a whole lot of him in the early previews. I didn't see a lot of clips from there. The pictures that they had shown out there, some of them said that they were fakes, but in the movie, when you see him, it's just like, what the hell did you guys do to him? I mean, the whole Uncanny Valley thing only works for specific animals. Like, what they did to Flounder in here was just unbelievable at how bad it was. Like, it's up there with MODOK in Quantumania for one of the worst visual effects you will ever see. I mean, I can't believe somebody at Disney looked at Flounder and said, no, that's good, just let it be that way. It's just like, and the worst part is that it's not that the character is bad. Like, Jacob Tremblay is a really good actor, and for the most part, he does a pretty good job in the role of Flounder, but man, when he's on screen, he's just, you can't really get a good grasp of this character because he just looks so ugly. Like, he looks so ugly in this movie, but again, to his credit, he's better than, as a character, he's better than Sebastian, which Sebastian here's kind of an asshole in this movie when you really think about it. There's never really a point where you really believe that he at least wants to try to help Ariel out, and when he does actually want to do it, he's kind of forced into it. But like in the original film, like, yeah, he was kind of the same thing, but at least he showed a little more compassion to Ariel. But here, like 90% of his dialogue in this is just like, no, I really do not want to be here. I don't want to be I don't want to be the king's servant. I don't want to deal with his daughter. I don't want to be like, and it's a shame because Daveed Diggs is a phenomenal actor. We've seen him in Hamilton. I think he's actually played this character before in the Little Mermaid Live special they did on TV a couple years ago. I'm already lying to you because that was not Daveed Diggs in the Little Mermaid Live. That was actually Shaggy, the Jamaican reggae musician. You've heard his work before, but at least in here, I never really felt like Sebastian really cared about actually helping Ariel out, helping the king out. It just felt like he was written as kind of a jerk in this movie. At least that's what I took from it. And it really doesn't help that image of him just really, like, that's just an ugly, ugly looking image. And even the movie itself looks too murky at times. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be something that was going to be, like, all over the movie, but it definitely feels a lot more murkier and less colorful than the original film was. And it really does feel like they were trying way too hard. It's like they weren't trying hard enough to actually lighten it up a little bit. Like, you could, like, you can lighten things up a little bit here, guys. Like, but really, one of the things that really irked me in terms of, like, the casting overall is that, I thought the casting overall in this was actually not that bad. Probably the one person that I really thought really was not good in this movie at all, and it was a shock to me, is Javier Bardem playing King Triton. Like, Javier Bardem just looks like he's zoned out. Like, looks like he's completely stoned. Looks like he's not even trying. It feels like it's like Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men took over the role of King Triton, except you're supposed to have a little more emotion than just have this one-note performance, and he just kind of has that in this movie. It's not like he doesn't have it all the way through. There are times when at least he tries, but they're very few and far between, and that really got on me very quickly. Like, this dude really he deserves a lot. Like, he really deserves to do more than just sit there and just have this blank, monotone look on his face. Like, there was never a real sense that he really was putting his all into it. And he's the one person in this that I really did not feel like he was putting his all into it. And I say that because everybody else in here does a pretty good job, but he's the one person that I watched in this, and I thought, man, like, you're an Academy Award-winning actor, dude. Can you at least put some range into it? Because, like, you never really believe that he really wants to help. That he feels compassionate, like the one in the original film does. Like, he always has this one note to him, and maybe once in a while he'll have a little bit of emotion to him, trying to connect with his daughters and all that. And I just thought that was one of the biggest things that really took me off guard with this movie. I thought he was surprisingly the one thing in this movie that I really did not like in terms of the casting. But with that said, that does lead to the positives of the movie. Now, of course, one of the hardest tasks to do with a movie like this is trying to mimic the original film, which I think with some of these live-action adaptations, when it's done bad, it's notoriously bad. I mean, The Lion King was one of those examples. I mean, I didn't hate The Lion King as much as everybody else did, but I acknowledge that the mistakes they made in that movie really hurt the film a lot. And in this case, I think they made the right approach here. I think Rob Marshall said it best in an interview that basically he said it's hard to top what they did with the original film. So you almost have to try to do things that are different and make them stand out on their own. And while the beats in this movie are very much there, you get most of the stories from the original film in this. I thought most of the new stuff they added in here actually did kind of work. There are some moments that are very there are moments that they add in here that feel really pointless, like, and stuff in there that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess before I get to the positives, I'll mention those real quick. Like, for example, the first scene of Scuttle in the movie, which, truth be told, I actually like Scuttle in this movie, played by Aquafina. She was the one character in here that I actually really liked. I liked that they did things differently with her. I actually liked that she actually looked kind of like an actual seagull, kind of. It wasn't a straight up representation. It was something different. It was something unique. I thought it was something that, compared to all the other characters in the movie that were CGI, that was probably the best one. And there were a couple of decent moments in there, but some of them not so much. But when we first meet Scuttle, we see him underwater, and she can talk to Ariel and Flounder in the water for no reason whatsoever. This is a bird, and yet it has the ability to talk to her underwater, which makes no sense whatsoever. It's never explained again. It only happens once in the movie, I believe. It might have happened twice. I can't remember for sure, but it's just such a weird thing to put in there. Like, why would you throw that in there? And then there's other things, like when we get to Ursula and she makes the deal with her, and Ariel makes the deal with her. If she turns into a human, she goes up into the human world, and they cut back to Ursula, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, there's a clause. I put a clause in there to make sure that she has no idea that she can't if she has to kiss the prince within 3 days." It's just like, isn't that the whole point of this? Like, what was the point of adding that in there? Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And they do have these things in there that really do not work at all. They just feel like they're being forced in. They're just trying to force some of these newer story elements that make no sense whatsoever, and they don't even question it, honestly. And it happens more times than it doesn't in this movie, and it really kind of feels forced in there. But with that said, going back to finally getting into the positives, the stuff that they do add in here, most of it actually worked pretty well for a 2-hour and 15-minute movie, based off of a film that was originally an hour and a half long. Most of the stuff they add in here, I thought worked okay. Nothing really was spectacular, but some of the stuff they add in here, I like that they add a little more to Eric's storyline. Like, I don't think this Eric is better than the one in the animated movie, but I like that they gave him more of a story. I like that they had to find a way to connect, for him and Ariel to connect more, and the way they handle Ariel in this movie when she can't speak is actually pretty nicely done too. I like the way that she has to essentially figure out experience these new things. While she can't be as expressive as she was in the animated movie, there is something kind of charming about the way she finds out these things in the human world that are very unique compared to what they did in the original film. It's like the little touches they add in here, I think, work very well for the most part. Some of the newer things in here they add in here, they're kind of pointless. Like, one of the big complaints right now is the scuttlebutt. There's a song in there by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who writes most of the songs in here, which kind of got me excited because I do like Lin-Manuel Miranda's music a lot. And he adds this song called The Scuttlebutt, which, when you listen to it, it's not a bad song. It's not at all, but it's the placement of it. A lot of people compared it to the rapping scene from Space Jam: A New Legacy, but I get why they did that, because they had a lot of those Looney Tunes and rap in gangster clothing back in the 90s, and it kind of is some people thought it didn't fit in there, but I got what they were trying to do there. It wasn't that great of a scene, but I understand why it was in there. This song here isn't bad per se, it's just that the placement of it is really, really off. Like, it's just like, it comes out of nowhere. We don't even know why it's called The Scuttlebutt, really, but like I said, it's not a bad song per se, but it's one that's just kind of like maybe if you put that somewhere else, like maybe if that was the beginning scene it's the first scene of Scuttle maybe in there, that could have worked. But as it stands in here, it just feels kind of pointlessly thrown in there. It just doesn't really, at least to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put that in there. But I'm one of those people that didn't hate it. I just hate where it was placed at. And like I said before, I do like the story elements they added into the movie. I didn't feel like anything was really forced in there, but when it didn't really need to. Like, for the most part, everything that was in there did work out okay. Like I said, there were parts in there that you could have taken out easily that felt kind of pointless, but at the same time, nothing really. That's the one thing about this movie. It didn't offend me as much as something like, Pinocchio. It's not throwing in like modern terms is like Chris Pine or 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 I can't remember the other word that is, but there was another one in there that really irked me. Or Beauty and the Beast, where you had the big scene where everybody's transforming back to human form, and there's a dog pissing because we gotta wake the kids up. It's a cheap laugh at the kids. Like, stuff like that really irked me. There was none of that in this movie, and I think that's one of the reasons why I really took to this movie more, and part of the reason why I think that this movie does stand out a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. The musical sequences as a whole are really well done. I like that they took different takes with these musical songs that we've come to know and love. In fact, the music overall in here was really good. I did like a lot of the new songs they added in here. I like the little song that they had with Ariel when she comes up to the human world, and she has the song called "For the First Time." And when you listen to it at first, I was thinking to myself, wait, how is she singing this if she can't speak? And it turns out it's just her thoughts thinking that way. And I think that's a pretty clever way to do it. And there's one time where she does move her lips, but it's in like a flash. It's like in what do you call it? It's like a little fantasy sequence. It's kind of quick, but I did like that they kind of added songs like that in there, and they were pretty good songs. None of the songs in this movie were really terrible per se, and the musical sequences themselves are really cool. I like what they did with Under the Sea. I like that Part of Your World has this unique one that works out too, and it helps, of course, that you have good singers behind them. I love that. I love that they did not do what Beauty and the Beast did. Like, Emma Watson can't sing, just auto-tune her voice, and no, you can't do that because it ruins the integrity of those songs, and that's why those songs in that movie the ones that are auto-tuned are terrible. Like that's one of the reasons why I hate Beauty and the Beast so much, and I love what they did here because they got actual singers to sing these songs. That's what you need to do in a good musical. You can't just depend on auto-tune to get the feeling that you want from to try to save a movie when your actors can't sing I completely lost on what I was trying to say, but you get my point. Bottom line, if they can't sing, get somebody else who can sing. Which brings us to the casting of this movie. I thought the casting overall here was very good. I already talked about Javier Bardem, talked about Daveed Diggs, talked about Awkwafina, talked about Jacob Tremblay. The guy who played Prince Eric, Jonah Hauer-King, I thought he did a very good job working off of Halle Bailey. Their chemistry was really good, and he was a really compelling character. I liked him a lot in this. Thought he did a pretty good job of taking on that role. Melissa McCarthy is Ursula. Let's get to her, because really, I thought it was good casting, but I also thought to myself, which Melissa McCarthy are we going to get? Are we going to get the Melissa McCarthy that has proven that she can be a very good actress in stuff like St. Vincent, a lot of other movies that are really good? Or are we going to get the bumbling Melissa McCarthy, the one that has basically become the female equivalent to Adam Sandler, where she makes terrible movies and really completely devoid of her comedic talents that she's proven in far superior movies, and just stuff for a cheap laugh? But thankfully, we do not get that in this. I thought she did a very good job filling in the role of Ursula. I thought she was very good in this. It's a tough task for her to fill in a role played brilliantly by Pat Carroll in the original film, and she makes that character her own. She's clearly having a ton of fun in this. There's no tropes of hers that follow her in those bad comedies. She's really doing a fantastic job in this movie, and I think that's really one of the strongest things about the film is her in this film. And then, of course, let's talk about the Little Mermaid herself, Halle Bailey. Now, when this movie was first announced and she was cast in this, there was an uproar because, she's black and she can't have a black mermaid, which apparently mermaids exist because let's forget the fact that mermaids are mythical creatures, and it doesn't really matter what race they are. And it was a stupid controversy. It was another stupid controversy, which, I mean, I had no problem with it back then. I still had no problem with it. And really, with those trailers, I was saying from the very beginning, if this movie ends up being as bad as it is, the one consistent thing that will be good about this is Halle Bailey as Ariel, because in that first trailer, she sold it. She sold it right away, and I'm happy to report that she really is she really is that damn good. I mean, this is really, really good stuff. this is a tough role to really get right. I mean, Jodie Benson made it her own in '89 when she did the original movie. Aaliyah Carvalho, Moana, when she did the special in 2019, she did a good job with it. She really takes it. Halle Bailey really takes this to a new level. This is a star-making performance for her. Not only is she a damn good singer, but she is a really good actress in this movie. She does a very good job making this character her own, doing things that are a little bit different than the previous film, and not just trying to make a carbon copy of the performance that Jodie Benson gave in the original film. This is I like the turn that they take in this, and that voice, man, that musical voice is just so good. She makes Part of Your World so incredible. Like, it's hard not to listen to this on repeat so many times, the way she sings this song. It's just like, and this is a really tough song to get down. I mean, it was because of this was a song that, keep in mind, in the original Little Mermaid, they were going to cut this because it did not play well in test screenings. Glenn Keane, Howard Ashman, they fought long and hard to keep that scene in the movie, and sure enough, it paid off big time. Which, I should bring this up real quick too, because I just watched the Howard Ashman documentary that was on Disney Plus again in time for this. And what I found interesting about the Little Mermaid was that there's a part where Howard Ashman is pitching the story to the animators, and he's talking about your character needs a strong want in terms of the main song in the movie. And there were people in that theater who had worked for Disney so many years, and they realized, a strong one. I never knew about that. It's just like it's amazing how much Howard Ashman does not get the full credit he deserves is for the creation of the original Little Mermaid. He's one of the co-producers. He wrote the songs. Like, he was fully invested in this movie, and his input is definitely shown here. And I like in this movie that it does. There is a lot about this performance by Halle Bailey that I really like. She really nails this performance, but she doesn't do, like I said, a carbon copy of what the original movie was. It's a new take. It works very well here. You really do buy into the character, and you really do get invested in her storyline here. And it's because of Bailey putting all this effort into it. I mean, this is really good stuff. I mean, it's crazy for me to say this, but this is Oscar-worthy material. Like, I really would like to see her get nominated for Best Actress for this, which I don't think it will, but I think she's a star in the making. And she's also got another musical coming out later this year, the Color Purple remake, which should be very good too. At least it looks very good, but we'll see how that turns out. But I think this is the one thing I was really hoping for this movie, that I really knew this movie was going to be good. It really is one of the strongest things about the movie. I thought she was very good in this film overall. Again, I need to keep specifying that, yes, this does not pale in comparison to the original film. But you know what? For what they had to do, they did a really damn good job. They really exceeded a lot of my expectations for this. This is probably one of my favorite live-action adaptations of a Disney movie. Like, this is really one of the strongest ones. I've really had some time to really think about it. Do I really want to say what I think about this movie is to be true? And yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I really appreciated what they did here. I thought they did a great job of grabbing Rob Marshall and David McGee, who had done Mary Poppins Returns, which was a good film, but not a great film. But you definitely could tell their heart was in the right place. They knew exactly what they were doing when they made this movie. I think they did a phenomenal job with this film. They really did a really good job of creating something new, creating a new take on the story that doesn't feel like a simple retread of the original film, even though it does have the beats from it. I really enjoyed this movie a whole lot. I was really surprised at how much I loved this movie. I think this is probably, if it's not in my top 10 for the year, it's probably in my runners-up. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I love this movie. I think kids are going to eat this up big time. They're going to be the real people who are really going to love this movie. But for people like me who go into this with every hope, is giving it the benefit of a doubt, I was really happy that I came out of this really enjoying what I saw. I mean, they did a phenomenal job with this movie. It's not a classic by any means. It certainly does not compare to the original film, but it's still a really damn good movie. I give this movie a strong thumbs up. I'd recommend seeing it at a matinee. I think kids definitely will get a kick out of it more than the adults will. And it won't take away what you love about the original movie too. Like, it's like these are two. It reminds me. It's like Aladdin. It's like Cinderella. The Jungle Book. These really damn good adaptations of classic Disney movies. I think that this is definitely, like I said, very high of some of the best ones they've done. I've really enjoyed this movie a whole lot. I can't recommend it enough. If you go into it with the right note, if you go into it knowing that you're not gonna get this is that it does take from the original film, but it doesn't completely redo the whole thing all over again. It's about as good as you can guess if you go into it with the right mindset. I went into it with the right mindset. I really enjoyed the film a lot. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check it out, and let me know your thoughts down below and tell me what you thought about it. And as we continue into the summer movie season, next week, of course, the train keeps on rolling. We got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and also the Boogeyman. I'll probably have one for Across the Spider-Verse. I'll try to see the Boogeyman, but I'm not making any promises on it. But Boogeyman's looking pretty good, too. But Across the Spider-Verse is going to be the big one I'm going to be tackling on the next episode. Like I said, let me know your thoughts down below. Tell me what you thought of the movie. And thank you for watching. And I hope to see you guys for the next video. So until then, take care.